Good evening. This week's discussion point is tourism. Are we going in the right direction? Next Wednesday, in fact, is the anniversary of the full opening of the frontier, and during the past year, tourism has become one of the major, if not the major, industry in Gibraltar. But are we going in the right direction? We sent our cameraman down to the coach park yesterday to talk to some tourists just before they left to return to Spain. This is what they had to say.
The apes and the caves.
And how
Everything.
about everything generally?
Very nice, yeah.
And what have you liked the least? Anything that you haven't liked?
Yes, no, there wasn't enough cafes really that you could sit down in. That's the only thing.
The car's coming too close to you. There's not enough room for pedestrians. That's definitely not it.
So I like the some of the shopping, but I haven't got much further than that. But it was nice to see it.
Apart from the weather, is there anything else you haven't liked?
Well, the shops are a bit tutty, but it's been quite interesting.
Absolutely delightful. There's a touch of the British here, which I like to see. Long may we hold on to it.
Some of the shops, I didn't care for them very much.
I liked it all.
There's nothing you haven't liked.
I don't think there's anything we haven't liked.
I'm glad to hear
And
it.
what I do like is all your charming gentlemen. Not a lot.
What haven't you liked then?
Well, I don't think there's much to do and see, but I don't know because we didn't.
Very confined. The streets are very, very confined. The streets, if you know what I mean, very close together. But I don't think there's too much to do really. I think all the shops are the same, all the same.
We haven't really looked about that much. I don't know if you can go up and see other things, but from what we've seen, it's not. I wouldn't come back.
Oh, many of the rock, the caves and the passages that have been dug out, you know.
Is there anything you haven't liked?
I'm not impressed with the town itself. It's a bit congested, you know.
How about you, madam? What have you liked best?
I think the historical thing about Gibraltar is the most interesting thing.
I like the atmosphere and the pleasant surprise of being able to talk one's own native language. The weather's a little bit disappointing.
Yes, we've enjoyed the apes best, I think. That was the thing we've been looking forward to seeing.
Nice shops.
Oh yes, some nice shops.
Well, I'm not very keen on Gibraltar at all at the moment. We're quite disappointed with it, actually.
What have you liked least?
Well, there's nowhere to eat. We found it very difficult to get something to eat. But, you know, we've had an enjoyable day, but apart from that, I don't think I'd come again.
The apes. I thought they were so beautiful and so interesting. In fact, the whole rock is fascinating.
Everything. It was a mind-boggling experience as far as we were concerned. We never thought it would be anything like this. Every time we saw pictures of Gibraltar, we thought it was solid, a solid rock. It was really a very, very thrilling experience. And we're back from the States.
Was there anything you didn't like?
Nothing. Everything was beautiful.
Well, there we are, views of some of our visitors yesterday down at the coach park. And to discuss tourism and whether we are going in the right direction, I have 4 guests in the studio. I have Mrs. Marisa de Soysa, representing the Gibraltar Women's Association. Marisa, good evening.
Hello.
Mr. Joe Pilcher of the GSLP. Joe, hello.
Hello.
Mr. James Gajero, who is a member of Blands. James, welcome. And our Minister for Tourism, Mr. Horace Smith. Minister, good evening.
Good evening.
Well, let me throw the discussion open. Are those valid viewpoints of those tourists? Minister, you start off.
Well, I think the points are valid. Obviously, what's one's man's cup of tea is another man's poison. We are in January, and I tend to believe that those shots were taken in the last 2 or 3 days. So the kind of tourists you're getting here are the more elderly winter tourist that may obviously require something different to the other kind of seasonal tourism. But it's no doubt that there are very many things that we have to improve in Gibraltar. I find it difficult to believe that they found no place where to eat or not enough cafes. In fact, it's a standing joke that we have something like 230 bars. Most of those bars, particularly those in Main Street, do serve some form of buffet or snacks. But there again, you could see that either they weren't properly guided towards what Gibraltar is. You saw the young Scottish couple there not knowing if they could go to the top of the rock. Well, of course, that is one of our greatest assets, is a rock tour and the apes and the caves and the galleries and the like. So I think it's a very fair comment because some people just come into Gibraltar for shopping and away and do not look at the history. But then you do get the other people saying it's fascinating, it's mind-boggling, and the like, to those that like that kind of thing. So I think it's a very fair comment, yes.
Right, well, let's throw the discussion wide open and look at the whole question. Are we going in the right direction? We've had the frontier open for a year. We've had tourists coming in every day. Marisa, as a housewife and a member of the Housewives Association, how do you see tourism in Gibraltar?
I must say that the industry is booming, but more because people are interested in coming to Gibraltar because they've heard a lot about it. I think there are many areas in Gib which could be improved, and I think to some extent in these crucial areas we are dragging our feet.
Can I ask you what areas?
Well,
specific?
the obvious to local residents would be the lack of cleanliness in the streets, the scruffy appearance of Gibraltar, the hazard that one has to go through every time one steps on a footpath, when one might step on dog excrement, that kind of thing. And there has been no change. In fact, there may have been a deterioration in the past year in that aspect of Gibraltar's appearance. And I think that's to our shame.
So you feel perhaps we're not moving in the right direction?
No, we're not, definitely not.
I agree with Marisa entirely. I think, I mean, the minister, I think in his initial contribution said that we still have a long way to go. Well, I think that sort of seems to say, well, we have gone some way, and now we've got a longer way to go. Now, I think the government, certainly since 1984, have been looking at tourism. It was, in fact, in 1984 when the Chief Minister made a statement saying how important tourism was going to be, and it was, in fact, the second pillar of the economy. Now, undoubtedly, 1984 was a very bad year for Gibraltar, and 1985 has only been different because of the opening of the frontier, and not because of any monies poured by the government into tourism or any major structural or development changes have been made in Gibraltar. I think we have been sitting since 1984 on a number of committees, and the committees have made representations to the government, and after a year and a half, the minister said to me in the House that this is now in front of the Council of Ministers. Well, if it takes a year and a half for things which, I mean, any ordinary citizen can walk out in the street and see what things that are wrong and what things should be. It doesn't, in fact, it doesn't even take committees to tell the minister or the Department of Tourism, because, I mean, one of the things was that the Department of Tourism should be better staffed, I think, in the Pitaluga report, and I think there have been staff changes, and I think the tourist office should be in a position to gauge themselves what is needed and could have done it quickly, even before the consultative board, who had to sort of look at all the ideas of all the committees and bring them together. So I think a lot should have been done before now.
So what you're also saying is that tourism is not going in the right direction?
Yes, well, it's not going in any direction. This is what I'm saying.
James Gajero, now you bring tourists here. When they come here, you try to bring the rock to them, let them see everything that they can. How do you see tourism at the moment?
Well, clearly everybody understands that we've experienced the most incredible expansion in this last year. The number of flights coming into Gibraltar from England have more than doubled. We've got a tremendous influx of tourists coming in from the coast. Government estimates that over 2 million people have crossed the frontier. I find it very encouraging listening to those comments from the people who clearly had a day in Gibraltar and enjoyed themselves. All too often, unfortunately, we who live here are prepared to criticize ourselves too much and find too many faults. Gibraltar is unique and it has a great deal to offer, and I think that there is no doubt that people come and enjoy themselves. The one thing that I find perhaps disheartening is that the Pitaluga report, which was set up by the Chief Minister almost 2 years ago, and a whole series of subcommittees were formed to advise the government on where we could improve ourselves and become one of the finest resorts in the world, has floundered. And I think the worst thing about that is that a great number of people put tremendous effort and time, not paid, it was all voluntary. Many people from the community and got themselves involved in this report to put Gibraltar on the map as being one of the finest destinations, resorts around. We have everything going for ourselves. We've got one of the finest locations in the Mediterranean. We've got a tremendous amount of history. We've got unique character, charm. People on the television just now said it. They all enjoyed themselves. And what I feel is that there are a long way we could go. Everybody knows where we have to go. And it just requires a government with a bit more determination to put into effect all those recommendations which have been put through by all the various subcommittees and the board itself.
Well, Minister, now back to you. Is the government dragging its feet on tourism?
No, I don't think it is, and I listen with great interest, obviously, because I'm very pleased to see that that tourism, of which I was totally convinced, not when the frontier opened, but before the frontier opened, would become possibly not the second industry to Gibraltar, but the major industry to Gibraltar. And I'm delighted to see that Mr. Pilcher now accepts this, because I didn't get much support from Mr. Pilcher or from the GSLP at all during the House of Assembly when we were asking for money for tourism. They abstained. So I'm delighted to see that if I have been able to convince the GSLP that tourism is great and good for Gibraltar, then of course that's a very major step forward that we have done and achieved.
The Minister will excuse me, because I have not said anything that could lead to that statement.
Well, can I stop you both here?
What I've said is that the government said that they were going to, tourism was going to be the second pillar of the economy, and that they haven't even started to do that. I haven't said that it is or it isn't.
Well, let's get into a political argument, Minister. Minister, let's stop the political argument. Let me ask you this, Minister. Would more money, make a difference to our touristic target?
Of course, absolutely.
Now, have we got that money?
No, we haven't at the moment. And this is what we have to really come to grasp with. The truth of the pudding is that prior to the opening of the frontier, very few people had faith in Gibraltar and its tourism potential. And let us not kid ourselves. Gibraltar was not touristically orientated, not to the kind of tourism that we're receiving today, despite the various reports that we have had. Now, government has attempted. We poured in £300,000 into cleaning up areas in Gibraltar and painting up areas, and I won't go into the details. You know, we were not able to do it because the unions wouldn't allow us to go to the tender on painting and sprucing up, but I won't go into that discussion either. What I am saying is this. It would be ridiculous for me to say that the whole structure of the tourist industry in Gibraltar doesn't require a lift up. I agree entirely with James. We are blessed, and we could exploit the tourist industry tremendously. But there must be a determination. There must be an attitude of mind. Now, the Peter Luger report, if I may please, and I'd like not to be interrupted because otherwise I lose trend of what I'm trying to say, is this. The Peter Luger report has been a long process. There are 4 separate committees, and we are most grateful for those voluntary people that serve on those committees for their recommendations. They have been submitted, and I accept it's taken time. And why it's taken time, I think I can explain too. It's taken a long time for a number of issues, which I think you will agree with. We've had a tremendous amount of problems in government.
Minister, do you need a committee to tell you to clean the streets because the streets are full of muck?
You may not need a committee to do that, but then don't tell me that the streets are dirty, because I can tell you the streets are dirty.
Quite. So
that is a known fact.
Why does it take so long to do something?
Please, and I'll come to this in a second, please. It's a question of finance, as I'm saying. And all the various committees, the Environment Committee, the Standards Committee, the Complaints Committee, all of them have now totally put in their recommendations. They've gone before the Consultative Board. The Consultative Board has now put their priorities, what they'd like to see. It's now been put in front of me, and I am putting that in front of Council of Ministers. In amongst that, there are tremendous sums of money. Let's not kid ourselves. We're not talking of £100,000 or £200,000. We're talking of millions of pounds. And the Gibraltar government certainly has not got that kind of finance. Within that, we had a submission for ODA, which we should have had a reply somewhere around November last year. We haven't had.
Well, Minister, I know that
problem.
You're making a long speech, Minister, long speech, and I'm going to stop you here because I know that James wants to say something on this.
One of the most fundamental things about the Peter Luger report was that it was absolutely vital that the whole thing about tourism should be depoliticized. It shouldn't be a question of politics at all. It is an industry which should be allowed to get on as forcefully as it possibly could. Now, what I think I find most disappointing is that the Minister implies that everything takes a bit of time. The terms of reference of the Consultative Board required that the board should meet on a monthly basis, once a month. The first Monday of every month, that board should meet. It met 3 times in the first 6 months and hasn't met since until this last 1 month ago. So out of the total of 16 months, it met 4 times in total, once every 4 months. Now that I feel shows the sort of commitment that has been given by government to this board, because it was the government, within your department, the Director of Tourism, who was the chairman of the board, should have been driving all those committees forward as quickly as possible to get implementation. A lot of them did not require millions of pounds. A lot of them were just the day-to-day facts of running a community of our size, cleaning the streets, as Marissa has said, or just the basic getting the whole infrastructure working together. At the moment, we seem to be going off in all sorts of tangents, and it's not working together.
But surely, could I come into that, please?
I want to tackle a second, because I think the Minister pointed to it, and James certainly has pointed it out to it. In fact, we accept that tourism as such is not a political matter. I mean, we have accepted, the politicizing tourism, and that's why I'm so surprised at the Minister saying that we abstained. Of course we abstained. We abstained because we think that the way ahead, or how the money should be channeled for tourism, is something which the government of the day should take a decision on. And therefore, I think if the government, who is always saying that the opposition are always opposing, the mere fact that we didn't oppose that, I think is a step in depoliticizing tourism. But I think if I may come back to this committee, because one thing that we said at the time, and I continue to say, is because in 1984, the AACR were unsure of how or what was going to be the trend in tourism. This is why there were so many committees created as a buffer zone between the doing something of tourism and the minister himself, so that there was always something in between that the minister could use when things were not done. And I am a great believer in, asking people, and government by the people, and asking people, and obviously if you're going to ask what should do with tourism, you should ask the industry, because they're the people in the know. Right. So I believe that. But if I may, just for a moment, because although I believe that, I also believe in ministerial and departmental responsibility. And I think that minister has given up that responsibility in issuing so many. I mean, why do we need a minister? Right, to take the findings of the consultative board to the Council of Ministers? That's a messenger. We only need a messenger.
We want to talk about the way tourism is going and should go, not recriminations against ministers and politicians. So let's stick to tourism. You've all clearly said that you don't agree with the way tourism is at the moment. The Minister has said that finance is obviously a major factor. There are many ideas in the pipeline through the Pitaluga report. So I'm going to ask you now, where should we go? In which direction should we be aiming our tourism? What can we do in the short and long term that will make Gibraltar this gem of the Mediterranean, as James referred to? Marisa?
Well, I'm sorry to keep having to harp on the past, but when the Pitaluga report came out, I think many people were very excited about it. They were excited because at last somebody was coming out and saying the truth that all of us knew. There was a sense of urgency about that report. Everything was to be done as soon as possible. And unfortunately, Gibraltar doesn't seem to have moved in the right direction. If you ask me what I think that direction should be, I think people here ought to have far more pride in the appearance of Gibraltar. People should be encouraged to clean their places up. You have the example of City Mill Lane, for example, where the traders put out flowers and they try in their own way to beautify the place. That kind of thing should be encouraged. But there are areas like, for example, going back to this question about the dogs, we wrote to your department. In fact, we've sent copies to many departments on this question back in 1984 or 83, I'm not quite sure. And we didn't even receive an acknowledgement. Now, of late, there have been more and more letters about this question. And I feel that the government, who is there to govern, should be far more dynamic, should be far more aggressive in getting things done. And where law has to be enforced, let it be enforced. On the question of the dogs, on the question of the rubbish, all that kind of thing, on the question of the bad parking. But this laissez-faire attitude which existed before, it's all right, never mind, attitude that existed before the frontier was open, cannot continue, because the time will come when we'll get the rope and hang ourselves.
So you've said then that you feel that cleaning up the city, making certain that laws are enforced about dogs fouling the pavement, this is a good step forward.
Yes.
Joe, what do you think?
Well, obviously no one can disagree with that. I mean, we all know, we all live in Gibraltar, and as James said, we all know what is wrong with Gibraltar. A lot of findings of the report, in fact, of the committees are common sense. I mean, things like, beautifying our streets. I think one of the comments of one of the tourists was how tacky one of the shops was, and I think that is, enshrined as well in one of the committees of tidying up shops. But I think that is all very well. But I mean, I think the minister pointed himself to what is really needed. Finance, cash is needed if the Gibraltar government or any government is going to give tourism a boost. Now, we are not doing enough, I think, to be able to cash in. We have 2 million visitors coming in, or 2 million visitors came in 1985. Now, are we doing enough to channel that money into the government coffers? Right. I think the answer is no, and I think the Chief Minister himself already pointed to that when when the governor came to Gibraltar. He said that not enough money is filtering into the government coffers. Now, if you walk across the frontier and go to the other side, to La Linea, you'll see the kind of dynamism which Marisa was referring to in the council, the ayuntamiento, how they are sort of channeling things in order to get money quickly into the ayuntamiento.
Could I just
Yes.
give you an example? Back in '83, there were proposals put to government from a private investor who was willing to set up an apes den, and nothing came of that. I don't know the reasons for that, but there was a unique opportunity where I feel that government could have cashed in on the apes. After all, we don't get any financial benefit from them. They're an attraction, but you could get people going in and paying a token amount, going to a cafeteria, going to a souvenir shop. And this idea of having an apes park, I thought was something very enterprising, and especially because you were getting a private investor willing to foot the bill, as it were. And nothing came of that.
Well, this is close to my heart because, in fact, on 2 occasions I pursued the matter with the minister in the House of Assembly because the person who wanted to open the ape park was so upset at the lack of interest of the government that he came to see us. And, I pursued it in the House, and the answer, which undoubtedly the minister will give, is that one of the committees was looking into it, which is what I was meaning about the buffer system of the committees. But I think it is important. I mean, if we're going to move forward in tourism, and the minister is right, finances is what it's all about. We should be in a position now to try and cash in out of the situation. I think the only thing we're doing at the moment is cashing in, unless the minister corrects me, in the St. Michael's Cave. The other areas, very little is being done to cash into them. The apes is one of them. I mean, most tourists who come to Gibraltar visit the apes, and yet they go down, they see the apes, they come out, and the Gibraltar government doesn't get a single penny out of that. Now, we seem to be, for example, the traffic situation, we could be making thousands of pounds on the amount of traffic coming to Gibraltar, and all that the government is put in legislation to up the parking tickets, who will only be paid by the local population, because no tourist will pay a parking ticket.
But is there not a risk here that if we start charging for this and charging for that and charging for the other, we're going to discourage tourists? Now, you're in the private sector, James. How do you feel about it?
I feel, having heard Joe, perhaps to a lesser degree the minister, talking about government coffers and all the rest of it, being involved in the tourist industry in Gibraltar, I would have to say that it is ridiculous to be making statements like that. This industry of ours is very heavily penalised with extremely high rates, with extremely high municipal charges, and we just do not feel we're getting value for money. You only have to take a look around and see the roads, the condition of the roads in Gibraltar. They are in an appalling state. Now, clearly, in a position of having to compete with neighbouring tourist industries in Spain and in Morocco, we have to remain fairly competitive. We've got ourselves an asset here in Gibraltar, which is very nearly perfect. I think Gibraltar has got just about everything going for it which could possibly be expected. I mean, it is a fabulous place, wonderful. What we need is a government who can set certain goals and certain tasks to try and achieve certain goals, which it's not doing at the moment. It just seems to be meandering along, frittering its time away, making committees and subcommittees and not getting anywhere. We need to have action, set ourselves the positive goals and try and achieve them as soon as possible.
Thank you, James. Now, Minister, you've got the last word because we haven't much time left.
No, I know, but I've not been given a proper account of this, I'm afraid, and I haven't been able to even answer questions. I think the other side of the table there has had the whole run of the show. I think it's most unfair. I've come here to be crucified. There's been nothing said of value at all in our endeavours, but total criticism. And I must say I'm very disappointed about it. There is nothing that can be said, not a word has been said of an attempt. And it's been, I'm sorry to say this, and I really lament saying this, it's the first time I'm saying this on television, it is a political issue of which I've given my friend Mr. Joe over there a lovely opportunity to go for me, and I have not been able, and not been given the time factor to be able to defend, including Mrs.
But the issue
You see, when she says that she had a letter, I have never to this day, never acknowledged a letter. And I think she will accept that from the Housewives Association. Now, whether we did or we didn't, I can't recall at this day, way back in '83. But, you know, I'm being crucified here, and nothing at all. And I have not been given the time. I was taking note of the time they were talking. And if you analyse it at the end of the programme, you'll see that I've had an eighth, never mind a quarter, of the time factor. I think it's most unfair because the only person, well, I would explain the apes den if you would give me the apes den, but when you finish, Mr. Pilcher goes on to say that they were approached.
The time now.
No, I'm sorry, I'm not going to use the time now. I haven't got the time now. I've seen we've been given the tick already, and it's not fair. It's not fair for questions to be barraged at me when I'm not given the chance to reply to, and therefore we are going to leave the public, as we always do, in total darkness.
As you always.
I don't agree. No, I don't. I'm prepared to answer anything, providing I'm given a fair cut of the cake. But not to come here and then take all the kicks and everybody accusing the government of not doing and Peter Luger not having done and committees not having done, and I can't reply to any individual. I haven't had the time factor.
Well, regretfully, the Minister is entitled to his views. You've heard the views of the other members of the discussion group, and we'll be with you again next week with another programme. Until then, good night.